Have you ever heard a story that is just so incredible? You find yourself saying, what? How? Where? Who? When? Why? Oh my God, that really happened? I can't believe it. Wow. Our guest today is that kind of story. And as a disclaimer, these are adults having adult conversations, so some parts may be too intense for children. Now buckle up, you guys, and get ready for a roller coaster. Please welcome my amazing friend from Austin, Texas, Hope Ruiz.
Hello, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me in your home.
Well, outside my home.
Thank you for having me outside your home in the lushness that is your backyard. So, Hope has a wonderful story. We met a couple years ago at a retreat. I had a shaved head.
That's right.
And I remember we sort of bonded over
the shaved head.
Over the shaved head. At the retreat, you shared a little bit of your backstory. And I was like, did you shave your head too?
I was just thinking about that recently because I told a student of mine about it. And they were like, what? Yeah. But I was like, I guess I was 22, 23, and coming out of a bad breakup. The person had always talked to me about my hair and how beautiful my hair was. And I wanted to let go of that. I wanted that to not be how I was identified and how I was seen. And so it was kind of an act of defiance at the time to kind of let go of the exterior, the way that people saw me from the outside and just see myself from the inside. So it was a really incredible experience. I always tell everybody they should shave their head at least once in their life.
I agree. It is so liberating.
And just like feeling the hair just falling was just such an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And suddenly just thinking, well, who am I besides what people see? Because I'm no longer what people used to associate with. And so it makes you define yourself from inside.
Do you ever think about doing it again?
No, because now, since it's growing back, I actually really love it. Not because of what other people think, but because of the way it feels, and I enjoy it.
So the story that you shared with us back at the retreat a couple years ago, I'm looking at a piece of it now that's currently on your arm.
Ah, that story.
Yes.
Yes, the mountain lion story.
So you went from shaved head
yes,
into this next chapter of your life, right? And that's where the mountain lion.
You mean the meditation part of my life?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, after the angry kind of phase, I was very militant for a while in college. I had some very severe health problems, really severe health problems, to where I had to drop out of college because I couldn't walk. I was hospitalized and couldn't breathe, and it was devastating because at that time I was very independent, and I was very, as I said, I was angry and on my own and wanting to be independent and not wanting to depend on anyone else. Mm. And so it was really hard to get knocked down like that by my health. And so I was a real low period for me. I was on tons of medication, and it was just making me worse. And I started having these weird experiences where I would wake up in the middle of the night just breaking out in hives. I would wake up and just be scratching and crazy and just about to lose it. And then somehow I'd finally get myself back to sleep, and I'd wake up in the morning and be gone. And at the time, I was doing a lot of yoga and Tai Chi and meditation. It just hit me one night that my body was trying to cleanse itself.
Interesting.
And so, against my doctor's recommendations, I just slowly started weaning myself off the steroids and all the things that they'd put me on. I just did it quietly. I didn't tell anybody. I just knew that I had to do it. It was just one of those moments where you just know you have to do something. And I eventually got myself off of all of those things. And they had told me I'd never be able to run again, and I started running. And I started living my life again, back on my own. And as kind of a celebration of that, I went on a month-long hike. I quit my job and went on a month-long hike where I just went to these national parks in Colorado and New Mexico, Utah, just Arizona, just kind of found all these beautiful national parks and just drove off and just had my tent and would just decide where I wanted to go and stay there as long as I wanted to and then pack up and go somewhere else. But on the far end of that in Colorado, I was at Mesa Verde, and I, at that point, was in kind of a routine of finding my site, putting my tent up, getting everything out. And I'd set up, and it was dusk, and I was going to go for a little walk to just kind of get a lay of the land. And I had my camera, and I saw these beautiful wildflowers. And so I kind of knelt down close to the ground, was getting this picture of these wildflowers. And movement caught my eye, and I looked up, and on the top of this cliff was this beautiful mountain lion.
Wow.
And our eyes just met, And she jumped down in this beautiful, graceful pounce, like right next to me, probably like 5 or 6 feet from me.
Wow.
And we were literally eye to eye. I mean, I was crouched down and my head just went crazy about what are you supposed to do in this situation? Are you supposed to not look at them? Are you supposed to look at them? Are you supposed to talk to you?
What time of day was it?
It was dusk.
Dusk. Okay. Yeah. Mountain lion time.
And do I get a picture? This would be a really great picture.
Wow.
But then so I kind of thought, well, I kind of look like prey right now, so this is probably not a good stance. So I kind of slowly stood up. I didn't lose eye contact with her, though. She was just too mesmerizing. She just kind of walked towards me, that beautiful walk that cats have where they roll their shoulders. And we're just eye to eye, and I was just talking. I don't even know what I was saying. I was just a whisper talk with her and slowly walking backwards as she was walking towards me. And the most beautiful thing about that moment, and why I came to get this tattoo many years later, is because at that moment I was not afraid. I was not afraid. And it was just, I was so at peace.
I just got chills.
I was so at peace. Probably the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And I remember just feeling that I was living my life so fully at that moment that if I died, it'd be okay. And I was totally okay with that. And I was like, and this would be kind of a cool way to go, Better than a car wreck or, something like that. I mean, this would be kind of like one with nature. It makes sense,
Predator versus prey, natural circle of life.
I can deal with that.
Wow. Wow.
And that was something that came up a lot during that time. I remember when I was coming back into civilization, I had this really hard time coming back. I remember I was doing a long drive coming back, and I decided to stay at a hotel room one night because I was just really tired and there wasn't much around and it was dark already. And I could not go to sleep in the hotel room. I could not do it. I kept waking up like every 10 minutes and just walking outside and looking at the sky. And then I would go back in and I would just, but like the sound, it was like that. I missed that night sound. I missed the quiet, but it was like this constant hum of an AC, and it was just, it just felt so sterile. So very sterile. And I felt more afraid in that hotel room than I'd felt the whole month that I'd been hiking and camping by myself in these huge parks. And I couldn't quite figure out what that was about. But something came to me slowly of it had something to do with closing the door. Like when I would close the door and lock it, it was as if that meant there was something to be afraid of. The act of closing the door and locking it is basically saying, well, there's a reason I have to close the door and lock it. There must be something dangerous outside. And my world just became small and very closed in. And when I'd been out, in the tent, just open, I hadn't felt that fear. And in my 40s, why I decided to go back and get this tattoo that is what I remember of her coming down off that cliff and wanting to find that peace again of living my life so fully that I'm okay with what happens, no matter what.
Okay, so that month, you were sick, and then you went, you were sick, shaved your head, and then went out into the sun?
Shaved my head, then sick.
Okay, shaved your head, then sick, then went out.
The shaved head was the before.
And then after the month, what happened next?
Oh, I realized I didn't want to go inside, and it kind of dawned on me that I wanted to be outdoors, and I started thinking about what I can do outdoors, and I've always loved plants, so I decided to work in a plant nursery. I just loved it, and so just little by little I picked up what to look for and that sort of thing, and then I started doing some jobs on my own where I'd go out and do some of my own design work, and so that was really fun. And so like plants became almost like your paints when you're painting, they became the medium. It was beautiful because it's living art, and I just love that concept.
So you did the plant thing. When did the meditation?
Oh, well, that was throughout that whole time.
Oh, it was a whole time.
That was all throughout that time. I was meditating with a teacher who was based in New York. He was from India, but he was based in New York. And so I would go up and I would stay there for, I would literally like week-long meditations. And then I had a meditation center here in Austin. And we would meditate here as well. And we had a center and people would come. And I gave meditation classes around town, things like that. So I was doing that through that whole time.
I remember, in my memory, the impression I got was you went into silence sometimes, but you were very much dedicated to this organization.
Yes.
And this was like your path. You were going to do it forever.
Yes. I thought I'd found the perfect path because it's kind of like being like a monk, but in the world. And that really appealed to me. And it was a celibate path. And I had many rocky relationship experiences in the past. And that was very problematic to me and caused a lot of tension in my life. So I thought this was brilliant because then I don't have to deal with relationships because it's not there. And it just gave me such a breathing room to be able to just really explore my own connection to the world without anyone else involved, unless I wanted to be there. Yeah, it was pretty strict in that respect. There was no drinking, no drugs, no, relationships, nothing. It was just purely being in that space of inspiration and meditation, which is wonderful.
And this was a path that your family was like not keen on.
No, they were not so keen on that.
I know you as a very rebellious character. You're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this.
But it was like the other extreme. They're like, what? But my closest brother and my best friend, who he then married, so she's now my sister-in-law, they kind of got it because they didn't understand what I was doing completely, but they saw how happy I was. And so they'd always tell my parents, just look how happy she is. That's what's important. You don't have to understand it. And they got okay with it, but it was strange for them. They thought it was very cult-like and strange. And it was a little weird. I made me think about it.
In hindsight.
But again, what I felt in my heart was so healing.
Yeah.
So very, very healing. I know I needed that space.
So you were on this path of being a monk in the world.
Yes.
And you're so sure of it.
Yes. And so life loves to make fun of you when you say things like that.
I got it all figured out. Don't mess me.
I got this down. I'm cool.
Just kidding. Let's throw something in there.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, at my landscaping job, this guy shows up. And, when he first was there, he was just another person. He was just, an employee that was training and da-da-da. But there was something about him that was just so, gosh, I couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, he was always smiling, always smiling. I mean, not like a little, polite smile, but like where your whole face lights up kind of smile, eyes sparkling kind of smile, no matter what. He was working 2 jobs. He worked, 7 days a week. He would get up at like 5 in the morning and get to work and just do whatever anything, and just joyfully. And easy laugh, gets along with everyone. And I just couldn't, I was like, who is this guy? The more I got to know him, he was indigenous Zapotec from Mexico, mountains of Oaxaca, something I wasn't really familiar with. I studied cultural anthropology in school. So I knew about Mayans, and I knew a lot, I thought. But I'd never heard of Zapotecs. And when he would call home and I would listen to him speak in Zapotec, it was just fascinating. I mean, I just was fascinated by the language, just how his voice would change when he was talking. It was just like, it's just this whole other world. And so we started talking a lot more, and here I was devoting all this time to meditation. I mean, reading, going to retreats, my meditation center, giving classes. Oh, I'm so full of myself. No alcohol, no drugs, no sex, nothing. Oh, I'm so, pious. And then here's this guy who is just naturally Buddha-like. And it just boggled my mind. I was like, how is he so content? How is he so happy? He's just happy to be alive, no matter what. I mean, here he comes from, Oaxaca is the poorest state in Mexico, and he's indigenous, meaning he's from the poorest part of Oaxaca. It didn't matter. He was just happy to be alive. And it boggled my mind because here I am working so hard to find that happiness and that peace. And there was just this person who just was. And so we would just have these crazy conversations. And he didn't speak English, so it was also kind of interesting because while I spoke Spanish, I was definitely getting pushed beyond what I was comfortable with and was having to go home and look at how to say certain things because, oh my gosh, we were getting into these crazy conversations. So yeah, he just kind of blew me away. He kind of like exposed me. I felt like a fraud. And it was weird. It was very, very weird. But little by little, we just got closer and closer to the point where it was weird to not be with him. Like, it was just like we balanced each other in this weird way. And I just started getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is problematic.
To everything.
This is no longer just an interesting conversation. This is something more. And so, so basically I went through this turmoil, going to New York and just meditating on it and what I was supposed to do. What does this mean? You know, I thought I was supposed to live this life. This was so nice. It was so peaceful. And now I'm in this, I meet this person who's challenging me, and I'm no longer feeling that peaceful place. Suddenly it felt fake. You know, it felt fake. It was like, wait, maybe I've stayed too long and it's become an escape, you know? Meditation almost had become an escape, where I didn't have to deal with the world and I didn't have to deal with the messiness of relationships. And if anything got too weird, I could just retreat into my meditation. And that's what I did. And so it no longer seemed like I was doing the right thing. It felt like I was doing the wrong thing. That it had been good. It had been good. And it healed me in a lot of ways. But it was time to go. And it was time to go back into the world, really. You know, from what I've learned with the tools I had, it was time to go get in the mess again. But it was really, really hard. It was really hard. And basically, I just lost that whole community. Just vanished out of my life. It was pretty devastating. And then, you know, so that's opened a whole new battlefield where if I was going to actually really do this thing, he was here without papers. And if we were actually going to make this thing work, I wanted to get that right. So we decided to move to Oaxaca.
Wow.
So not only did I lose my little meditation community, I left everything. I left my job, I sold my car, I let go of my house that I loved. Yeah, and just moved to a whole new country, a whole new world, because Oaxaca's like, oh gosh, it's like traveling in time. It's not even, It was a big move. It was a big shift. And of course, my parents, once again.
What are you doing?
Wait, we were just getting okay with that last thing you did.
Now you're going to do what? You're going where?
Going where? I've never even heard of that before.
Wow.
How do you spell it?
So you went.
I went. I jumped off the cliff. I tend to do that.
You landed.
I landed, and I loved it. Oh my gosh. Oaxaca was this weird feeling of going home to a place I'd never been.
Interesting.
It was very, very bizarre feeling.
Wow.
I still, when I go, I get that feeling, and it's so bizarre. Because it is so different from anything you experience here.
And so then you were there. You guys decided, all right, we're in this. And it was time to make it official, right?
Well, we actually got married right before we left.
Okay.
We got married right before we left.
Okay.
Got married, started the proceedings, the legal, immigration proceedings right before we left. And initially I thought, well, this, it's just going to be a year to get to know the culture, and then we'll come back with his papers and start our life here. It didn't turn out that way. But that was our initial plan. And I just wanted, it's going to be like a year abroad where I go and I learn about his culture and meet his family and that sort of thing.
And that didn't happen.
It did not happen.
What happened?
9/11 happened. Yeah.
Wow.
Because we went down there in August.
Right before.
Right before. We were walking the streets of Oaxaca when it happened, looking for an apartment. Gosh, it was so intense because we were walking around the streets and people were coming up to me just out of the blue, strangers coming up and apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was just like, why?
Yeah.
What are you sorry about? I don't know you. And we were walking through the streets and I looked through a store that was selling televisions and they had it on the screen. And I just stood there with my mouth open. Like, I thought it was a movie. And people were just coming up, surrounding me. And it was just, wow, devastating. And to be so far from home and watching that happen was just very bizarre. Very, very, very bizarre. So after 9/11, immigration got much stricter. Much, much, much stricter. So whereas before, you would just kind of say, I'm sorry. I was here without papers. You would pay a fine and everything would go along as it was. they started enforcing with the 10-year bar, which means you can't come back for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was just supposed to be a year abroad turned into
Possibly
10 years.
I still didn't know that for a while. I mean, but that is basically what happened. And the hard part of that was while I was there, I started having health problems again. And I miscarried our first child because of those health problems.
So sorry.
And that was the deepest blow I've probably ever gone through, because it was just, I was so happy. I was so happy. I mean, in my mind, I'd already had these long conversations, and, it was so what I wanted. It was so what I wanted, and I was just so blissfully happy, and the idea of being a mother was just so beautiful to me. And then to go in one day to hear the heartbeat, and they couldn't find it. And I just started screaming. And I was like, I have to find someone else. Someone else has to check. And then, my husband's parents, are indigenous, and they have different beliefs. There's a lot of, in the ancient culture, the shamanism and things like that. And they had told me that I was going to have the baby removed because it was going to be dangerous if it didn't come out. And she came down, and they do this thing with the huevo, with an egg.
Uh-huh.
And the shaman then looks at the eggs and tells you, what problems you have. And when they did that to me, they said, there's still a faint life left. Oh my gosh, to tell me that was just, that little flicker of hope that maybe they were all wrong. All those doctors I just been to, that maybe they were wrong. Oh my gosh. And I held on, and I held on, and I held on, and they finally said, no, you have to do this. You have to do this. And they put me on the maternity ward. And I had to listen to babies being born around me. And then, I was having health problems. I couldn't breathe again, and coughing uncontrollably. And at one point, they left me alone. Polo had gone to do something, and the doctors had gone out. And I coughed, and it came out.
Wow.
And I was just standing there. I mean, I was laying there. And I was the only one. And nurse came in and took him away. And that was the last time I saw him. He was just gone. Polo never even saw him. And they told me that it was still too early, that he wouldn't have a clear form. But he was fully formed. So that was devastating. So my whole little dream world about living in this, their culture and experiencing this other world and everything else just came crashing down. And going through that, by myself in a place I didn't know anyone.
Did he have a name?
Angelito is what I ended up calling him. That's what they call the babies who die, angelitos.
I'm so sorry, Hope.
Yeah. So when we were at that writing weekend, that's what I'd written about.
Yeah.
And how I still have this sense that he's alive, like spirit-wise. Latin America literature is all about magical realism, that these spirits don't leave you. They're constantly in conversation with you. They're a part of who you are. And he's that for me, because I think I'm a better mother for having gone through that and knowing how fragile life is and knowing to appreciate every second and what a gift it is. I think it made me a better mother to my children. So I think of it that way, as he was kind of my guardian angel. And it was a really hard lesson. But it was an important one for me to learn. And that things don't work out the way you think.
Yes.
They don't. And you don't have a say sometimes. You just don't. And so that was compounded on top of this whole experience with immigration.
Right.
Just that helplessness, like feeling like I was so helpless. Like I had no control over my life. All these outer forces were controlling my life. And we fought for 6 years to get his papers. And I tried every visa. I wrote letters to all the representatives. I even went to D.C. and spoke. We were on the front page of the San Antonio Express. Man, I tried everything. And they finally said, stop calling us. They literally told me, they're like, don't call for 10 years.
Wow.
We're not going to change our mind. And so I had all these health problems, right? I was
Yeah.
hospitalized 6 times in 3 years.
And this all took place in Mexico.
Well, no, this is
Okay.
after I lost the baby. The health problems got worse and worse and worse. So I literally couldn't get around without my nebulizer. And I finally called my pulmonologist here in Austin, and he's like, get on a plane now. And so Polo drove me all night long to Mexico City, and I flew out that night, and I didn't know if I'd see him again. I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. And by the time I got to the hospital here in Austin, I had a collapsed lung and double pneumonia.
Wow.
And the doctors in Oaxaca had just been saying I was a hypochondriac. I just worried too much. And so that didn't make me feel safe about going back because of my health problems. Like I said, I was hospitalized 6 times. So we started living on the border. This was my new plan. Mm-hmm. Plan C, I guess, at this point. I thought, well, I'm going to become a teacher. And they need teachers on the border, and we'll live on the Mexican side, and I'll just cross the border over here. So I'll have health insurance. I have the medical care in the United States, and I'll become a teacher. And so that's what we did. We moved to Reynosa, and I crossed the border every morning to go work. But it was extremely stressful. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, crossing Reynosa Bridge in the dark, getting to my school, the first one there every day. And then sometimes taking like 2 hours to get home across the bridge. Even though it's 10 miles, it would sometimes take up to 2 hours to get across the bridge, depending on what was going on, because this was right after 9/11, right? So sometimes there'd be a orange alert or red alert. And I always had to have all my paperwork on me and everything. And so, yeah, it was very, very, very stressful. And there was one night where I was having really severe breathing problems, and Polo actually had to drive me to the border and get out of the car, and then I had to cross the border by myself and drive myself to the emergency room, and couldn't breathe, didn't know if I was going to make it. Yeah, it was really hard. And then one of the times I was hospitalized, they said, we're not going to let you out if you're going back to Mexico. You have to have a place in the United States, or we're not going to let you out. And they said the air quality is so low, it's just going to keep happening. And each time I'd get pneumonia, it would scar my lungs, so it made it easier to get pneumonia. So it was just this constant cycle. And they said, you have to break the cycle. You can't keep doing this. And so my parents came down, and we got a hotel room so they would let us out of the hospital.
Gosh.
And I was like, once again, what am I going to do? So plan D, I guess. I've got an apartment in McAllen, and my husband's in Reynosa. And so I thought, well, I can at least see him on the weekends. And so I would work all week and then cross over and see him on the weekends if my health was good. And so that became our life.
For how long?
We were in the Valley for 5 years. Wow. So, and this whole time, trying to, every visa, everything I could possibly think of. So when they finally said, stop calling us.
Right.
I had this decision to make because I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy. I have to choose between my country and my husband and the possibility of, family. And so I decided to move to Monterrey because I thought that was it was a pretty modern city. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And I was pregnant with Diego, and so that became our new plan. Was I was just gonna move, take the risk, and just move because we thought the air quality would be better there. They have really good health care there, a lot of great jobs, a lot of great schools. So once Diego was born, I packed up everything with him in his little Bjorn and packed up my house.
So Diego was born in Monterrey?
Well, no, I wanted him to be born here in case I had health problems. Okay. And then once he was born, healthy, stable, I packed up and left.
Can you give us that picture? That's very vivid to me, where you had to have your child on the American side.
Yes.
Without your husband.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he couldn't be there for the birth. He wasn't there for most of the pregnancy, and he couldn't be there for the birth. Yeah, that was really, it was so not what I visualized the birth to be like. But my mom was here. She was wonderful. She was here. So the first time he got to meet Diego was with that San Antonio reporter.
Really?
That was doing the article. And he's like, can we come for that? So they met us at this bus station, because Polo had already moved to Monterrey at this point. We met at the bus station. And that was the first time Polo got to see the baby. But oh my gosh, the pictures from that are so beautiful. He's smiling so big and so happy. And oh my gosh, it's a beautiful moment. I'm glad they captured that. So the pictures on the front page of the San Antonio Express were Polo holding Diego for the first time.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool.
And then you went on to have a daughter.
Yes, but that was once we came back here. Yeah, we lived in Monterrey for a while, and it's a beautiful city. Oh my gosh, loved it. And then out of the blue, the lawyer calls me and says, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What?" She's like, "I just got a call." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "Polo's been approved." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, they called and they said that they just found his paperwork. It had been misplaced. And he was actually approved 2 years ago."
What?
I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" And she's like, "You need to jump on this now." So we did. We went to Ciudad Juarez, and we were just laughing. I mean, at that point, it just become absurd. It was just absurd at that point. We were just like, we're not going to get our hopes up. We're going to get here. They're going to realize they messed up. It was a mistake. And we got there. They asked him, like, these 3 really silly questions. Like, before they would, like, interrogate us. Just accuse us of lying if we didn't, one time they were asking me where I lived 10 years ago, when I moved into that apartment, and when I left, and I was like a month off than what I'd written down in my paperwork, and he accused me of being a liar and that I was trying to, deceive him, and I was just like, "Do you know where you were 10 years ago?" We get there, they ask these 3 silly questions like, "Do y'all pay taxes? Where did y'all meet?" I mean, like, really simple questions. And they're like, "Welcome to the United States."
Wow.
Stamped it.
How many years altogether?
Well, altogether, we'd been fighting this for like 6 years.
Wow. Okay.
And then just out of the blue. But we didn't care. We were like, "Okay, pack up, let's go."
To Austin.
To Austin.
And you had your daughter.
And so that was very different, having him there with me during the pregnancy, having him there with me when she came, having him with me for those first months when you don't sleep, having the support.
So it'll
be 15 years this summer.
When I contacted Hope, I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this podcast thing. I would love if you told us your stories. I think it's so inspiring." And when we met last week, just to catch up, you said, "I hope that you're not expecting..." What did you say to me?
I said, "I hope you're not expecting a beautiful love story because my husband and I are getting a divorce." Oh no, I'm going to get teary. So, this is plan what? E? I lose track. Yeah, we fought so hard to get together. So it's really hard to let it go. But I know it's the right thing. I've connected it to how I felt when I left the meditation group. Because I had the same feeling that this is beautiful and it means a lot to me and it's healed me in so many ways. It's a rich part of my life and it's brought me to be the person I am today. But it's time to go and it's time to start the new chapter. So I'm jumping off the cliff again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like my mountain lion tattoo. I'm in the moment and I'm fully in the moment and I'm feeling it. And as long as I'm there, I'm okay. I'll be okay. Because that's what's important, is to really live your life. All the pain of it, all the happiness of it, the joys, the sorrows, the confusion, the doubt, everything. I mean, it's all part of it. I don't want to ever just cling to something because it's what I know, because it's safe. That to me isn't what life's about, even though it seems really comfortable.
You gave me this image of going to take your daughter rock climbing, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The T-Rex.
The T-Rex arms.
Yeah, that's a very powerful image.
Yeah, last summer, she told me she wanted to do rock climbing. So I found a rock climbing gym, and she would have this trainer that he would give them tips. And one of the things he said was that, I don't know if I can do this with people not being able to see.
I think we'll be able to get it. Yeah.
When you're hanging on the wall, he said, if you got your arms bent and you're trying to hold yourself up with your arms, he called that T-Rex arms. And he said that's a very weak place to be, because eventually your arms are going to get tired and you can't hold yourself very long in that position, that you have to stretch your arms out and use your whole body and not just your arms. It just hit me that that's how I'd been living. I'd been living with T-Rex arms. I'd been trying to hold this thing together for so long by just sheer, willpower, by, brute force. And I had to let go. I had to stretch out. I had to use my whole body, not just a part of me, but all of me. I was just using my T-Rex arms. That was really powerful for me. Really good lesson for me. And they also had me belay her where I was the one holding her, where she's attached to me and she was going up the wall. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful image it was. Me letting her go, me letting her climb, that I have to let the rope out so that she can go higher.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, it was there was like so many images. I was like, this is so profound. Everything seems symbolic. And it's helped me as a parent, that's part of parenting, is letting go and not knowing the answer and not knowing how it's going to work out. And to be a good parent, I have to model that for them, because that's what life's about. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, my life story is a perfect example. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You just do the best you can with what you've got. And you have to take every moment as a new moment. So that's my new goal.
And I know when you said, I really hope she doesn't want a love story, but then I was like, but I hope that you see this is still a love story. It's learning to love yourself through it all in every moment with your kids and
all the people that come in your life. And it's not about any one of them. It's about all of them. And how they help you grow and how they help you discover yourself, but that you don't stop. You don't stop for anyone. You got to keep growing. You got to keep experiencing. That's been really, to learn to see the beauty of each person who's come in my life and how they've affected me, influenced me, helped me grow, but not stop. You got to keep growing.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you. It's very sweet of you to ask for my story.
Thanks for living it.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. And that's our show for today. Hope you'll join us again very soon. And until then, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you may be.